Hello, my name is Dr. Christopher Liao. I'm the founder and designer of Curvi-Hifi, and this is my brainchild and latest conception of how to actually get the most out of these fantastic Jordan-designed full-range drive units. They are a remarkable drive unit, but they require a lot of care in actually getting the most out of them. Of course, it's a single drive unit. We don't need a crossover. So it's a crossover-less design, and that gives a very high level of coherence to the sound quality. There's no discontinuity in the very important female vocal region, which usually occurs about sort of between 2 and 3 kilohertz in a conventional speaker. That gives a sort of a slightly disjointed sound. Here you don't have any of that, and very fluid and very fast-sounding speaker. The transients are perfectly reproduced, because there's no crossover actually splitting the signal up in the time domain. So therefore, a transient is reproduced exactly as it is received from the amplifier. And that gives very high quality reproduction of piano and harpsichord and instruments like that, and also, of course, drums and cymbals as well. The cabinet is constructed of birch ply. It's actually really the best material to use for loudspeaker cabinets, because it's a laminated structure inherently. And of course, we have to remember that wood is also a composite material in itself. It's a natural composite, and nature is in fact the best material scientist in many respects. We just have to look at our own bodies to realize this, of course. The way I've actually used the plywood is actually quite novel. I actually have laminations of birch ply where you have a lot of end grain exposure. So what happens, the signal, the vibration from the drive unit is actually transferred into the cabinet in all loudspeakers. And the job of the cabinet is actually to dissipate that energy as heat as fast as possible. If you have end grain, if the sound goes at 90 degrees perpendicular to the grain direction, you're actually deforming the interfaces between the fibers, and that leads to very rapid energy dissipation. And that is the beauty of this design, and the beauty of the implementation of the birch ply material in this design. The other very important factor here is the shape of the cabinet. All transmission line designs, apart from a very small minority, which are priced very far beyond this model, have straight transmission lines. And that really spells disaster in terms of reflections. The sound coming from the back of the drive unit would normally be reflected off the back of an ordinary box-shaped cabinet, and that reflected sound would end up going straight back through the drive unit, and that would then muddy the response. That would ruin the impulse response, and it would ruin all the good work done by the drive unit. In this particular design, the sound actually is able to reflect around the line, and that reflection quality also lends itself to the very fast impulse reproduction and also very clean bass response of the speaker. There's no bloom, there's no muddiness with this design. The bass notes stop and start as they should do. There's no overhang. And that's a virtue of this transmission line. But it's the curves that really are the secret behind it. Now, the transmission line itself is actually designed to also absorb the low frequency, the high frequencies. It's designed to absorb the high frequencies and allow very efficient transmission of the low frequencies. And the high frequencies are absorbed using acoustic foam, specially formulated acoustic foam, which has a special profile which increases its surface area and therefore makes it much more efficient at absorbing the sound. So that really sort of is a summary of the design principles behind it. But there's also an aesthetic philosophy as well behind the design. Up to now, I've been making loudspeakers now really since the mid-90s. Curvi-Hifi was formed in 2005. And this design has really come from use of multi-drivered loudspeakers in the past. And I've actually made a number of multi-driver designs, and I've actually become slightly disillusioned with the sound quality because of this whole concept of dividing the frequencies up amongst 2 or 3 drivers. That's not how real instruments work. Real instruments produce all the frequencies at one time. You don't have a violin with a tweeter, mid-range, and a bass unit. This reproduces it as it would be played. So it's very realistic reproduction. So I started conceiving the design in 2005. It was registered by the UK Patent Office later in 2005. There have been several refinements and iterations, particularly with regards to the compensation network, the baffle step compensation network, which is actually a very important part of the design. And the component selection for that network is very critical, because otherwise you could dilute all the good work done by the driver and the cabinet if you do select the parts poorly for that particular component. So now this is the show launch. This is the first time the product's been launched at a hi-fi show. It's had very good reception from the public. There's been a lot of interest in it, and I'm very happy and I'm confident now that it's actually going to do extremely well. Particularly in overseas markets where there's more of a robust market for this kind of product. For further information on the Curvi Model 1 version 2, please visit my website, www.curvi-hifi.com. On the website, you will see details of the UK retailers for the speaker. I have one retailer in the north of England, Audio T, and David Spears will be very happy to help out with home demonstrations that will allow you to fall in love with the speaker in your own home. And in the southern region, there's John Jeffries of Sounds of Music. He will also arrange similar demonstrations for you if you live in the south of England. International inquiries are of course very important to me, and because I realise the international market is very large. Please contact me directly for overseas inquiries, and demonstrations can be arranged that way. Finally, I'd also like to thank Christian Ellis of CE Electroacoustics for the final voicing of the design that's really transported it from good to outstanding. He was behind the fine-tuning of the baffle step compensation and also the line damping. Thanks very much indeed.